2 o'clock. So for the interest of recording, oh yeah, I could use a GIF. Hang on, let me send you a laughing GIF, and then I will turn off my camera. This is kind of creepy. Okay, shuffle. Here. Here's my laughing GIF. I'm so excited. Oh my goodness, the viewer count is going up. Hello, friends. Yeah, I need like a fun. Yeah, it's 2 a.m. exactly. But I'm here for you, DrupalCon Europe. Honestly, I took a nap at 10 p.m. for 2 hours, and I was really scared I wouldn't get up. But I'm here and I'm awake, and I've had a little bit of tea. I'm a little scared to have coffee because I also have meetings at 9 a.m. usual time, and so I'm gonna try to get some sleep between then and now. We'll see how that goes. But it is 2:01, so I'm gonna turn off my video for the recording, and I'm gonna get started. Welcome to the pandemic edition of the Sorceress Spellbook. This is like a fun lightning talk of interesting and potentially useful strategies and tools for you to explore. I'd love to see your reactions in the chat. I love looking at the chat when I'm presenting, so feel free to chat with me there. I really love playing around with apps and workflows. So sometimes for team building or code reviews or improving productivity, you know, those people who are like, I'm being really productive, looking for new ways to be productive. That's me on the weekends. So I just get a thrill out of trying new things. And so I know that people really love seeing tools. So you'll get to hear about a bunch of different ones, and hopefully you'll take something away and something will spark for you that you can continue to use. It seems like some of you already know who I am, but for those of you who we haven't met yet, my name is Fatima. I'm a developer programs engineer at Pantheon. I work on developer tools, delivering trainings, and engaging with the communities that we work with. You can find me on the internet as Sugar Overflow, things that I enjoy away from a computer and during a pandemic. Actually, those aren't away from a computer at all. Our virtual game and movie nights. And then I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Go just to get out of the house. As I said, I can't even go a couple blocks to get an Ethernet cable because I just never leave the house. Hi, Leslie. Leslie is my original DrupalCon mentor. It's so great to see you. I am located in Berkeley, California. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm on the Ohlone people's territory. A quick outline for today's presentation. I just have a couple categories of tools and things that I'm going to go through. So for teams, things that come up, you know, when you're working with different people on your team or a new organization, as well as productivity in general. And then for developers, there's been a lot of cool presentation tools that have come up in the past year with a lot of the virtual presentation. So there's some things that you might want to try out if you're doing a lightning talk or something fun. And so all of these things will be linked on the slide, and I'll drop a link to the deck in the chat when I'm done, so you can follow up on things and take a look at it in depth. Some of these things I don't use anymore, so I'll let you know if I don't. And some of them are recommended from friends. If you have things that you use that are similar, feel free to drop them in the chat as we go. I think that would be really cool and fun. Chapter 1 is teamwork. That can be super tricky given that a lot of organizations, mine included, suddenly went remote last year. And so some of the ways in which you can build trust and alignment with your teammate with like activities and exercises. One of the ways that I've done this successfully in the past is something called a user manual. So this is a template of a user manual where you can fill out all of the different information and then share it with your teammates. You could also put together a slide deck with the information on this template and share it that way. Just depends on what your preferences and the style of communication that your team has. Of course, like there's a lot of things here. We could be like, things I struggle with are meetings in the afternoon, which, you know, your coworkers can't always avoid meetings in the afternoon. But this is a great way to explicitly share and communicate about preferences and ways that you like to work, especially when you're remote and you don't have that opportunity to have those water cooler conversations. This can help you build a little bit of working style rapport. Another tool that I think is critical for teams that I've worked with is something called a RACI. That's a responsibility assignment matrix. It's a diagram or chart that can help teams figure out how to manage the different moving pieces of a project. RACI stands for responsibility, accountability, consulted, and informed. And each of those different roles holds a different weight and accountability and helps identify who should be involved in a project and specifically in what way, so that ultimately you'll know, like, okay, well, something didn't get done, who was responsible for doing it. And so you'll fill out, all of the people on your team. It sounds like Nicholas is saying Gimli is missing. I will leave a comment on the blog post for this really fun Lord of the Rings example. But what you do is specify all of the different activities on the project, and then you assign each person what they're going to be. So, maybe if you're working on a launch for a release, the docs team should be consulted as a part of that launch so that they can update the docs, whereas the person working on the project would be the R, or the person responsible for it. And so this is a great way to like set expectations and then also like hold people to those expectations. Who's doing nothing in those 5? I don't know, because I haven't seen Lord of the Rings yet. In my last role, we did a lot of design thinking activities at Code for Canada, sometimes remotely with our organization, sometimes in different cities. I just dropped a bomb, and I'm just going to ignore the chat. So actually, a friend of mine has lent me the book, but it is like 500 pages, so I haven't gotten to it yet. But it's in my library waiting for me to read it downstairs. So another thing that I think is great digitally is Mural. So this is like a virtual board where you can have sticky notes, you can have diagrams, you can work together to edit or highlight things. And organize and share things. And so this is really great for if you're doing retros with your team. Maybe you're doing direction setting activities like brainstorming. It's not the only whiteboarding / collaborative tool, but this one's a little easier to use, in my opinion, because it's very simple and it doesn't come with a lot of like templates and things. So you can get started pretty quickly. And the Mural team is really responsive on Twitter. And so you can kind of engage with them and see what features they're working on and look at their roadmap as well. Chat is still going on about Lord of the Rings. I love it. A couple of other tools that I think deserve honorable mentions. Elfster is this secret Santa generator. We use it at Pantheon to organize these New Year's secret gift exchange. It's really fun. Everyone makes their own lists, and then you can go and purchase something from their list. So they'll actually get something that they wanted to get, but you won't know who's buying what for you. So there's still an element of surprise to a certain degree, but you'll still get something that you wanted to have. So I like that combination, especially for like Secret Santa among coworkers. You may not know the person well, so you want to give them something they want. Another thing I love using is Zapier. This helps you automate stuff. If you're familiar with If This Then That, this is a fancier version of that. As a team, we use Asana to manage most of our work, but a lot of my work can exist outside of Asana. So I use Zapier to push a lot of things to Asana tasks. For example, if someone tags me or adds me to review a pull request on GitHub, I have it drop an Asana task into my board so that I can, make sure that I see it happening in case I haven't opened GitHub for the day. Another thing I do is CFP deadline. So if there's a conference coming up and I need to submit a talk, I'll have like those deadlines, and I'll have that push into Asana tasks. So you can get a lot done with the free tier as well. And Lucia says that there is an alternative for Zapier called Integromat, which I think has a lot of integrations as well. Another thing that I see people using at work is this thing called Clockwise. It's a Google Chrome extension. It'll look at your calendar and try to free up some blocks of interrupted time, and it'll block them off with, call them like focus times. It'll also help you find times for your coworkers to meet with you. It'll look at their schedule and be like, oh, here's a sliver of time that won't interrupt your coworkers, like block of work time. And so this is really great. It'll also remind people gently if they're interrupting your afternoon of no meetings that like, hey, like maybe Fatima needs this afternoon to focus. So you should schedule this meeting a little bit earlier when she has her other meetings. So this is great. I've seen a lot of people use this if you're looking for more control over sort of focus blocks on your calendar. Oh yeah, thanks, Boris. N8n.io is a self-hosted alternative to Zapier as well. We love the options. And then Miro is another whiteboarding tool, much like Mural. This one really shines because it's got Teams and template support. They've also got some really great blogs. They have a sprint planning playbook and template that comes with a product backlog, user activities, feature card templates. And so all of those can be converted to Jira cards when you're done brainstorming. So Miro is a specific tool that's really great for people who are already on a Jira ecosystem. Chapter 2 is productivity. This is kind of my favorite but most dangerous place to explore. This is kind of where all the dragons that take away all of your time. One of the tools that always runs in the background and I forget it's there is rescue time. Full disclaimer that some people might find this really creepy because it literally watches everything you do on the internet. I like it because it keeps track of what I'm doing and then sends me these charts of, weekly dashboards. This is a screenshot of a week from February 2021, which didn't have a lot of embarrassing Netflix happening on my laptop. So I thought I would show you a really productive week. And so occasionally I'll get emails where I'm off from work and I'll just be binge watching things all week. And it'll be like, hey, your productivity was really low last week. And I'll be like, that's accurate, but I was also not working. And so rescue time is fun. Waka time in the chat is also a good alternative if you would like a different option. If you're working with clients or customers or freelance, Timing app is a paid alternative. So it's not cheap, but it'll automatically track your time based on the configuration tasks and parameters that you set. This was great when I was working on a support team and jumping across different projects because it allowed the app to track billable time for me via keywords. So I would set certain keywords and then look at it at the end of the day and then use that to bill clients in case I hadn't like properly tracked my work. It also tracks calendar events and has privacy settings and is smart enough to pick up on patterns, especially in the free version. So you can use it for a while and then start configuring it. So screen time on mobile in the chat does something similar for your phones. Don't look at it. It's very sad. If you have a lot of meetings, but you don't need down to the detailed keyword tracking, Agenda is really great. Agenda syncs up with your calendar, so you can attach notes to specific meetings. You can organize them by projects and by tag and add action items. I used to really like this for one-on-one meetings because then I would see them like a timeline and I could look at like my previous one-on-one with my manager and what the follow-ups were and like, demand that those things actually be followed up on. And so I like the timeline format of this as well as the attachment to your actual meetings. I know they have some team plans because we were using it at Pantheon as a team for a while. But this is really useful if you have a lot of notes for meetings and maybe you're not on like a Google Docs kind of infrastructure. More honorable mentions, if this then that. Everyone has their favorite to-do managers. One that I really like here is on the bottom left. It's called Guest Timer, and it's a little tool that sits in your Mac-only taskbar, and it lets you time box activities. So you drag it down to set a time, and then it'll give you a notification when the time is up. So I'll be like, okay, I only have 15 minutes to get this done. Let me time box this activity. Or, if I'm on a panel and I'm trying to make sure that I like stop talking every 3 minutes, I'll set it 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 9 minutes. And so I really like it. I talked to one of my coworkers about this and he said he does the same thing, but with Alexa. So he'll be like, hey, Alexa, remind me in 10 minutes. And so then he doesn't have to keep checking the time and can focus on the thing he's working on, but still within a time box. Han says he uses an offline notepad for his to-do list. No, that is totally fine. You are not getting too old. I've talked to some people that tell me that like the process of writing things down is really critical for them to like remember and like keep retain that information. So I sometimes take paper notes in meetings too. It just really depends on the format of the meeting and like what kind of thing I'm trying to capture. So for like more developer related meetings, I do need to write quicker and I type faster than I write. But yeah, you're definitely not getting old. I'm getting old too. We can all get old collectively. Chapter 3 of the spell book is developer tools. That's right. John says that writing uses different parts of the brain than typing. I definitely feel like I could type an entire meeting verbatim and I wouldn't understand anything I wrote down. Like I could just type it out and not actually comprehend anything. Whereas I think when you're writing by hand, there's a little bit more of what you're writing because you're telling your brain to write it out. So definitely hear you on that. Yeah, Edward, you might have to stick to one notebook. Stop collecting notebooks at DrupalCons. So for this section, I don't really work with client code and several Drupal sites anymore. So there's a lot of things that I used to use for generating snippets and things like that. So in this section, I would just think about like, what are the things that you do on a day-to-day basis? And you might be able to replace them with a tool that might automate it for you. So here's some that I like. Snippets Lab is really cool. Back when I was working on D7 and D8 sites, this was great if you like wanted to save hooks or custom forms or custom plugins that you had written. And then you could, I once wrote like a multi-step Ajax submit form and I was so proud of myself. So I saved it in my snippets lab in case I ever had to write another one again. So it has markdown formatting, and you can, add notes as you go. I think it's really great as like a knowledge base, especially if you work with a lot of different tools and languages. You can also integrate it with a Spotlight replacement called Alfred. So you can search for and drop snippets into your code for specific functions, or like example code for the constructor. I remember that took me a while to get set up on. And so it was good. It was good to have the snippet until I was ready. I know there are also plugins with your text editors that can do some of the same stuff. Yeah, we've got PHP Storm and Catcher.io in the chat. Kaleidoscope allows me to do visual code review, so I can see changes line by line. It's a kind of like a Git diff that you can see on GitHub. So if you're looking at the diff for a pull request, but here you can control which branches you're looking at and kind of look at things like this. Kaleidoscope is paid as well. I might have a free license, so if you're looking to get into Kaleidoscope, I think they sent me a couple of sponsored license the last time I gave this talk, and I might have one left. So reach out to me on Twitter and I might be able to hook you up with Kaleidoscope. Screenflow is really great for front-end developers or people who are doing front-end development and will be going through code reviews. One of my technical leads in the past at Digital Echidna, he would use this to make sure that I was meeting the requirements of the mockup by like checking the dimensions of the things that I was building. Yeah, I'm also not surprised to see the wizard. Hey, Kevin. One of my favorite Git commands is Git Add. Git Add -P allows you to add things in patches. So if you have like a big chunk of code that you've been working on, this will break it up for you, and you can look at pieces of the code and decide yes or no in order to stage that code. So this is really great because you can craft exactly what you want in your commit snapshot. Maybe you worked on two really big things and you can split them up and commit them separately. I see there's a lot of love for Git Add P in the chat. Another thing that David Needham, who is a former colleague of mine, had a really great talk on was finding bugs with Git bisect. So, you remember that something was working on your project, but for the life of you, you can't figure out what went wrong. Git bisect is a great way to go back and figure out what went wrong and where it happened. I love when my Git history is a collection of one-liners. is in the chat, and I really love that. I really want to laugh at laughing emoji that. But yeah, this is a great tool as well, and I have linked this slide to David Needham's really great talk where you can use Git bisect, and then you can take it a step further with some automation. For a command line tool, Z is my favorite. This GIF is not playing, but Rupa/Z is this tool that allows you to jump into directories that you have visited frequently in the past. It's something called frequency. I'll actually paste this in the chat so you can take a look at it really quickly. But it works by keeping track of when you go to certain directories and looks at how much time you spend in them. And then it can guess for you. So if you have a really long name, like maybe you're working on Pantheon Advanced Page Cache, the module, and you want to go there really quickly, you could just be like Z cache, and Z will be like, oh, I know you usually go to Pantheon Advanced Page Cache, and it'll take you to that directory. In the interest of time, I think I will run through the next few slides really quickly. So for fun presentations, since this year has been basically the year of virtual conferences, is an app that allows you to make these really fun video call presentations because it's interactive. It's got something called a co-pilot mode, which allows two people to edit slides together and speak together. So this is really cool. I see the Git blame as a favorite in the chat. I think we should have a whole spell book on Git commands, but Git squash really makes me happy because if you were really silly on debugging for a while, then you could squash it all and people only see it if they're really digging into it. Another app that I've been using on virtual presentations is a Snap Camera. It's a Snapchat extension, kind of brings these fun lenses to your live streams and video chats, and you can have all sorts of sparkles and unicorns and potatoes. David Needham gives a really great talk about config management where he uses filters to change his hair color and add a hat or a beard, and that tells different characters in his story. So like, he's a web manager and then he's a developer, and it really helps him tell that story and make it a really fun, interactive presentation. I am at the end of time, so I am going to jump to the last slide so I can give you the link to the slides. I got way too excited, but here's a link to the slides so that you can take a look at everything else that I had on there. And hopefully you can take a look at some of the fun section at the end. I do really like the idea of a complete Git spellbook. I will definitely put that in my list of talks to prepare. Might require some collaboration with this very friendly chat. In the interest of time for the next speaker, thank you everyone for joining and for being such a lively chat. I'm about to screenshot that. And maybe we can continue this conversation on Drupal Slack because it feels like everyone has some tools that they would love to share. So I will see you there. Thank you so much. If you have any questions specifically for me, please reach out on Twitter or Drupal Slack, and I would love to chat. Oh, access denied. Let me make that publicly shareable. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.